Hi everybody, and welcome to week 17 of Poppa's Picks, brought to you by FantasyDonks.com, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know to start playing daily fantasy football. I'm Sean Big Poppa Williams, and like usual, I'll be bringing you my picks for this week, week 17 of the NFL football season. Without further ado, let's get into quarterbacks, but before I do, let's go ahead and talk about a situation that a lot of players are interested in this week, which is that it's week 17, so some teams have everything to play for and some teams have nothing to play for. With that said, you need to pay attention to matchups this week and the information the teams are putting out as to whether or not they're going to be playing backups or how long their starters will play. I've done most of that research for you, but if you're going to play players outside of Poppa's Picks, make sure you do your due diligence and research those teams. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get to quarterbacks. And as usual, we will be using DraftKings pricing just to give everybody a price point for the players. And we'll start off with my top pick at the quarterback position, which is Peyton Manning. He is $8,600 this week versus the Oakland Raiders. And the Raiders are still bad at defense. I can see the Broncos this week trying to right their ship offensively and get their passing game going heading into the playoffs. Also, the Broncos can lose a spot if other teams win if they don't win this game. So I think Peyton Manning will put up a stellar fantasy performance for you this week and more than pay off his $8,600 price tag. The number 2 quarterback I have for you this week is Matt Ryan at $7,700 versus Carolina. This game is for the NFC South Championship, and Carolina is bad on defense. Matty Ice has been on fire as of late, and I like Matty Ice to try to carry the Falcons to their division title against a porous Panthers secondary. The number 3 quarterback I have for you this week is the flip side of the last game, and that's Cam Newton at $7,500 at the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are still one of the worst defenses in the NFL statistically, and I think this game will be a shootout between two terrible defenses and two very competent offenses. I like Cam Newton this week, and as he looks like he has returned to form and should be able to put up 25 to 35 points, and we know Cam's ceiling's somewhere around the 45-point mark, so I like him at $7,500 this week. The number 4 pick I have for you at quarterback this week is that of Eli Manning at $7,100 versus Philadelphia. The Eagles knocked themselves out of playoff contention by turning into a dumpster fire the last few weeks, and Eli and Odell Beckham Jr. are doing amazing things together. I think that Eli and ODB will chase the rest of the rookie records held by Randy Moss and try to prove that Odell Beckham Jr. is the best rookie wide receiver to play in the NFL. I realize the Giants also don't have anything to play for, but that hasn't stopped them the last few weeks from putting up amazing fantasy points. I like Eli this week at $7,100. The number 5 quarterback I have for you in Poppa's risk-reward play at the quarterback position is Andy Dalton at $6,000 at Pittsburgh. The last time he played the Steelers, he put up 30-plus fantasy points. The only risk here, and why he's a risk-reward play, is that the Red Rifle is on the road where he tends to not play up to his potential. I like the Ginger Ninja this week to put up a repeat performance, getting close to the 30-plus point performance he put last time versus the Steelers, and easily pay off his $6,000 price tag. I also think a lot of owners will stay away from Andy Dalton because of his bad road splits. That means you'll have a low own percentage, and if he performs to his ability, it gives you the ability to move up in a lot of tournament plays. Now that we've got quarterbacks all wrapped up, let's move right along to the running back position. And the first running back I have for you on the board should surprise no one. It's Le'Veon Bell at $9,500 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I realize at $9,500 he's absurdly expensive and it can handcuff your team a lot, but the Bengals are a bottom 5 team against the run. And the last time Le'Veon played the Bengals, he put up 50-plus fantasy points. A guy that can put up 50-plus fantasy points is a fade at your own risk. I will be putting Le'Veon into a few lineups and trying to make his $9,500 price tag work. The number 2 running back I have for you this week is that of Arian Foster at $7,900 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Texans still have a lot to play for and have a shot to make the playoffs. They will rely heavily on their run game and on Arian Foster versus this Jacksonville Jaguars team. The last time he played the Jags this season, he put up 25-plus fantasy points, and in the history of Arian Foster versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, he has owned them and put up monster fantasy games. I like Arian Foster a lot this week. The number 3 running back I have for you is C.J. Anderson at 7,000 versus the Oakland Raiders. I really like C.J. Anderson this week, and it comes down to this. If I'm wrong about Peyton Manning and the Broncos trying to right their offense, like throwing the ball, then he's going to have a monster game beating the Raiders with his run game. If I'm right that Peyton Manning's going to try to right the ship via the pass, then C.J. Anderson still makes a great play because he catches a ton of balls out of the backfield, and he'll still get the goal line work for the Broncos, which means lots of fantasy points. So basically, either way that game flow goes, CJ should have a great game, which is why I like him at a 7,000 price tag. The number 4 running back I have for you this week is Jonathan Stewart at 5,700 at Atlanta. The Panthers said they will still rely heavily and place the load on Jonathan Stewart's shoulders, even with Williams back this week and healthy. Excuse me. Jonathan Stewart has been too productive for the Carolina Panthers not to lean on him against what is statistically the worst run defense in the NFL. I love Jay Stu this week at a $5,700 price tag. The number 5 running back I have for you this week in this Poppa's risk-reward play at the running back position is the entire Falcons run game versus the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are still a bottom 10 team bottom 10 team in the league against the run, and Steven Jackson is out with an injury this week. That should mean a huge day for the remaining healthy Falcons backs. Both Freeman and Jacquez Rodgers are priced at $3,600, and they should easily exceed that value. I like Freeman a little bit better this week because he tends to break off huge chunks during various plays, but Jacquez also could have a day and is also in play. Now that we wrapped up the running backs, let's move right along to wide receivers. And the number 1 wide receiver I have for you this week is Odell Beckham Jr. At $9,600 versus the Philadelphia Eagles, his price tag is absurd, but he's facing one of the worst secondaries in football. The Eagles are abhorrent versus the pass, and ODB Jr. has put up 30-plus fantasy points in the last 3 weeks and went 40-plus in one of those weeks. Fade this guy at your own risk. I realize he's super expensive, but you do not want to have him off your roster if he's going to put up 40-plus points on the Eagles. Plus, the Eagles may have given up, which means that their bad secondary may be even worse, and Odell Beckham is chasing some records. I like him this week, even at that expensive price tag. The number 2 wide receiver I have for you this week is, I'm actually going to give you one of Poppa's twofers here, and that's Julio Jones at $8,100 and Roddy White at $6,300 versus the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons are playing to make the playoffs, and both of these receivers are in play. Both are currently listed as questionable on the injury report, but all research I've done and all reports that are coming out of Atlanta say that both Falcons wide receivers will be good to go, and both of these guys are capable of monster games. I even like a Falcons stack this week if you're wanting to lean that way and play Matty Ice with both of those wide receivers. I think that you'll be more than paid off at either one of those guys' price tags. The number 3 wide receiver I have for you, and I'm going to give you another twofer here as a Christmas bonus, is Demaryius Thomas at $8,500 and Emmanuel Sanders at $7,000. All Broncos players are in play this week against the terrible Oakland Raiders. And what I think is people might be staying away from the Broncos, thinking that they're just going to coast into the postseason and try to get everybody healthy. Not to mention, the Broncos receiving corps and Peyton Manning have performed at a subpar level the last 3 weeks, which also will keep ownership away from them, and their prices haven't deflated as much as you would like. I think the contrarian play here may be to load up on Broncos players and get a beast performance out of them while they clown the Raiders this week. And I think that when they clown the Raiders, they're going to make fantasy owners ecstatic that they put their trust in Peyton Manning and the Broncos. The number 4 wide receiver I have for you this week is that of Kelvin Benjamin at $6,200 at Atlanta. Kelvin is a beast, and Cam Newton loves to throw him the ball. He should be a safe 20-plus point guy this week, and if the Panthers get behind the Falcons, he should be able to put up a monster performance and making owners really happy. And remember, that $6,200 price tag is significantly less than the other premier wideouts, and that may help you be able to fit in a Le'Veon Bell or some other players if you want to go that route. The number 5 wide receiver I have for you this week in Poppa's risk-reward play at the wide receiver position is Josh Gordon at $5,900 at Baltimore. I know I'm recording this earlier than you're watching it, but I can hear you groan now at the recommendation of Josh Gordon. Look, I know he's been a turd the last 3 weeks with Manziel under center, and he is priced a bit too high for what he's been, but he gets Hoyer back this week, and he has one beast game under his belt this year with Brian Hoyer, and the Falcons versus the Falcons. And the Ravens, who he plays this week, are worse than the Falcons in their secondary. They're actually dead last in the league at defending the pass. I would look for Josh Gordon to beast up and try to put a statement on his on his year where he missed a bunch of games from suspension. Look for him to drop at least 20 plus points. I think he has we know he has a ceiling of 40 plus points. I think this may be the game where the Browns go off. Hoyer may prove that Manziel is not the quarterback of the future and that he is, and he may do it all via Josh Gordon. I like him as a sneaky play, even at the $5,900 price tag. Now that we wrapped up the wide receiver position, let's move right along to tight ends. The first tight end I have for you on the board this week is Rob Gronkowski at $7,400 versus the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are ranked as a top 3 defense against the tight end, but the last time he played the Bills, Gronk caught 7 for 94. If he had a touch, it would have been a phenomenal game. The Bills are knocked out of playoff contention, and it's Gronky Kong. Both of those factors should be enough for you to trust Gronk this week and make him a good play, even at the $7,400 price tag against the Buffalo Bills. The number 2 tight end I have for you this week is that of Jimmy Graham at $6,700 at Tampa Bay. I think Gronk will play as a man possessed this week after getting screwed by what was a terrible call that cost him a touchdown and ended any hopes that the Saints had of getting back in that game and making the playoffs. I think that means Gronk will beast up and have a crazy good day. I think that more than pays off his $6,700 price tag, and I think Gronk will make players rue the day that they decided not to play him in fantasy football this week. The number 3 tight end I have for you this week is that of Antonio Gates at $5,900 at the Kansas City Chiefs. Gates owns the Chiefs over his career, and in the last game against KC this season, he caught 3 balls for 61 yards and a touchdown. It was a good game for fantasy owners, but statistically, it's actually one of his worst performances against the Chiefs. I like him this week to put up even more points in a game that the Chargers must win against the Kansas City Chiefs defense that is actually worse than what the ranking is against the tight end position. The number 4 tight end I have for you this week is Jason Witten at $5,000 at Washington. The Washington team is bad against the tight end, and Witten caught 5 for 70 and a touchdown earlier in the season against this Washington team. Look, Witten usually destroys this team, and at $5,000, he doesn't have to do a whole lot to hit his value and make you happy as a daily fantasy owner. I like Witten this week as well. The number 5 tight end I have for you in Poppa's risk-reward play at the tight end position this week is Scott Chandler at $3,500 at New England. The Bills are eliminated from playoff contention, and Chandler is all up and down, all over the place as a fantasy football player. However, the last time he played the Patriots, he caught 6 balls for 105 yards. That would more than pays off his cheap price tag if he can get anywhere close to that. I think that the Bills, even though their playoff hopes are decimated, will fight and claw and try to knock New England out of one of the top spots in the AFC. I like Chandler to be the focal point of the offense to do that this week at the tight end position. And like I said, he's dirt cheap. Well, that wraps up Poppa's picks for Week 17, the end of the regular season. I want to thank everybody who has watched and supported Poppa's picks and supported FantasyDonks.com. Hopefully, we helped you all win some money this year. And just for the future, we will continue to provide daily fantasy football information, hopefully for years to come. We look forward to having you back with us next season, and we're going to expand into some other sports soon. thank you again for all your support, and good luck this weekend. Let's make money, and I will see those of you who are diehards that want to do some playoff fantasy football next week. Until I talk to you guys again, peace out. I hope you had a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. Have a Happy New Year, and bye, everybody.